Warning: the following program contains vivid descriptions of extreme violence, frequent strong language, sexual references, and period-typical racism and misogyny. Viewer discretion advised. What you are about to hear is an account of one of the most bizarre crimes in the annals of American history. Paul Aaron and Luca Giordano joined the war for different reasons. The latter's motivations were undeniably purer, if not quite as pure, as simple patriotism. He sought to build up a certain credibility in the eyes of society, so that when he returned to work under his uncle, as he then planned, he would be an ideal covert operative, because no one ever suspected a veteran to work for the mafia. The former, on the other hand, joined for no reason other than to kill. Perhaps he hoped murder disguised as defending a nation would be enough to sate the hunger embedded deep within his soul. In fact, if this was ever Paul's hope, it was a hope in vain, for the war only steered him more clearly down the road of destiny that would end in the Quattro Taco slayings. It was by mere chance, if you believe in such a thing, that he and Luca, another man quite capable of murder for entirely different reasons than Paul, ended up in the same platoon. This particular war was one fought for poor reasons and with little strategy, as thousands of inexperienced men whose lives might otherwise have been long and worthy were shoved into combat they knew not how to survive. Paul and Luca's platoon was full of skinny, scared young men, most between the ages of 18 and 21. Paul and Luca themselves were quite young at the time, but their impressive statures and the former's thick whiskers made them appear much older than their quaking counterparts. The platoon's first and only venture into the jungle saw all of these miserable, frightened kids slaughtered by the enemy with undeserving brutality. Paul, a brute in battle, and Luca, gifted with a more resourceful mind than the others, survived the gunfire, but found themselves stuck in the wilderness. Luca was injured so badly that he could do little but sit up inside a small nook, hollowed out by a stream that no longer flowed quite as high as it once had. Nearby was the body of an enemy soldier, Paul killed by jamming his semi-automatic rifle into the man's ribs and firing until the last sounds of resistance to death left his bloodied mouth. The dead man had on his person a meat cleaver, likely procured from some village his own platoon had moved through. Paul used it to kill a rabbit, which he skinned, chopped into little pieces, and roasted a bit at a time on a spit, using only his cigarette lighter, because they dared not start a real fire when anyone could happen by and spot them. He then served the little roasted pieces to Luca. Luca tried to save some of the thin, tasteless meat for his compatriot, but Paul insisted he eat all of it in order to gain back his strength as soon as possible. This went on for 3 whole days before Luca demanded to know what Paul was eating, for not once did he see the giant take a bite from any of the nutritionally weak wild beasts he hacked apart with the meat cleaver. A man grows honest when he's alone with another man, and both are fighting not to pay rent or anything trivial, but solely to stay alive for another day, another hour, another minute. Paul eventually admitted to Luca that he had been cooking and consuming the dead enemy soldier, a little piece at a time, and Luca was more accepting of this fact than would be any man free from the jungle heat, the fever, the infected wound, and the mad buzzing insects. Luca was quite fascinated by the whole production once Paul showed him how he was doing it. There was an art to the thing, and Paul explained how, under other circumstances, he might not merely cook the flesh, but season it in such a way as to disguise its natural bland taste, make it seem more like beef, or even lamb. Luca nodded, grunted here and there, taking mental notes for a future something. Paul wondered if he might be reported upon their return, but in fact, This was the last thing Luca intended. The giant's methods, though skin-crawling, kept them both alive. Luca was born of a family that prioritized honor and loyalty, despite a certain moral flexibility in other areas. For this reason, the sous chef would now do anything for Paul. This included accompanying him home to the States, assisting him in the restaurant business, and even making himself look like a fool, which happened a lot early in the timeline with the Cuatro Taco slayings, as he was often forced to improvise excuses to send the other crew members outside. Donnie's cover was at its thinnest in these instances, as he was technically working 2 jobs, and always exhausted. He would catnap in a lawn chair on the back patio. Carter hardly ever slept, never mind napped. He and Wong would lean against the cantina smoking cigarettes, attempting to ignore the dry desert heat. "You seem restless," Carter said offhandedly one day, not really caring. Wong nodded. "We're out of tamales." A moment passed before Carter recognized how little this remark explained anything at all. "The fuck are you talking about?" he demanded. Wong just laughed.